This video demonstrates how to apply borders to cells in an Excel workbook. I'll be working off of this empty workbook, applying borders to the C4 and C6 cells. Here, I am bringing in Load Workbook from the OpenPyXL library. I have the Excel workbook loaded into memory as WB with the sheet assigned to variable WS. I will be saving my work here with the save function. In order to create borders for a cell, I need to bring in the border and side objects from the library. They are located at the openpyxl.styles.borders module. Each cell has an attribute called border that is a border object. This border object accepts side objects as arguments. First, let's start by accessing the border attribute of a cell. I will do this on cell A1, so that we can compare one cell that I will be working on versus an untouched cell. The first thing to notice about this output is that this is a border object. This means that I can assign another border object to this attribute and explains why I imported border from the library. You can see as well, as parameters of the border object, the orientation of the border of the cell are side objects. You can see right here with left, right, top, and bottom. Interestingly, you can also create a diagonal cell border for your cell. But for this video, I'll be focusing on left, right, top, and bottom. Changing the cell border is done by simply assigning that border attribute a new border object. The first argument we're going to be looking at to pass the border object is the orientation of the border, which can be left, right, top, or bottom. So let's start with top. Now, as we saw earlier, each orientation is a side object. So we assign an orientation a new side object with the parameters that we want displayed. The specific parameter that we are concerned with is the style argument that we're going to be passing the side object. This is going to tell Excel how we want the actual border to be styled. Let's start with a simple thick border and apply it to the top side of the cell. With this applied, let's save the workbook. And here you can see our first border, top portion of C4 has been applied as a thick border. Thick is not the only style available. The documentation lists a wide array of choices that I have added down here. As you can see, some examples are dash dot, dotted lines, and slant dash dot lines. You can incorporate a mixture of any of these together in a single cell. So let's add a dotted line to the right border of C4. All I need to do here is pass right as a border argument. Also, let's add some color. This is done by calling the color argument for the side object. Down here, I have the hex code for red. So let's take this bright red and add it to our right-hand side dotted object. I simply add color as the argument. Let's go ahead, save the document, and reopen it to see our work. Here we can see both of our borders have been nicely applied to the C4 object. We have our thick border on the top and our dotted red border on the right-hand side. Once you've determined how you want to stylize your border, you can apply the styles to all sides all at once. So let's change C6 to have a complete red border with a thin style. All I have to do here is copy these two down and make sure all sides are assigned, top, bottom, left, right. With those changes applied, let's go ahead, save it, and reopen the document. And there we see our nicely bordered C6 cell object. It has that thin red border along all sides. Let's take a last look at the actual border attribute of the cell and compare it to this A1 border that we looked at the start. Looking at this border object, you can see some values are different from the A1 object. In A1, you can see that there is a none for style and color for all of the parameters for each of these objects. Compare that to our C6 border, which now has the style of thin and the red hex values for our RGB value for all of the side objects. So in conclusion, it is quite simple. All you have to do is import the border and side objects from the library, identify the cell that you want to border on, and then assign that border attribute of the cell the border object which contains side objects with the values for the styling and the color of your choice. Thank you for watching. I hope you have found this video useful. If you enjoyed it and found it helpful in any way, please do hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below letting me know what other features you might be interested to review in future videos. In the meantime, please stay tuned for more videos on features of OpenPyXL.